everyone, welcome to Women in Horticulture's Sharing series. My name is Sam Nestory. I'm a horticulturist here at Stoneleigh, a natural garden in Villanova. Today we're going to be talking about winter pruning. Before we start, just want to talk to you a little bit about Stoneleigh. If you're not aware, we are the newest public garden in the Philadelphia area. We opened in May of 2018. We're 42 acres, we're open to the public, free of an admission charge. So check us out. We're really looking forward to a wonderful spring coming very, very soon. Now on to pruning. There are lots and lots of different reasons to prune. One of the first reasons is to remove dead wood. So throughout a tree or a shrub's lifetime, tree limbs and branches naturally decay and die back, so you can prune those out really at any time of year. Another great reason to prune is to remove damaged or broken branches or limbs. So storm damage, other types of damage, great reason to prune off those limbs or reduce them. Another reason to prune is to remove diseased branches. So for example, alternate leaf dogwood sometimes comes down with a fungus called golden canker. Pruning is a great way to reduce the presence of that disease in alternate leaf dogwoods. Another reason to prune is risk reduction. So this looks at the lifetime of the plant. Structural pruning is a great approach in the very beginning of a tree's lifetime. So in the first 5 years or so that the tree is in the ground, reducing, rubbing branches, cutting back water sprouts, making sure that you have a dominant leader, all of these help to increase the health and the longevity of that plant going into the future. And one of the most common reasons that we prune is for aesthetics. Here in the garden, we prune for form and for size, keeping shrubs and sometimes trees within a certain space. But one of the great reasons to prune is another aesthetic reason, promoting flowering, promoting colorful foliage, and promoting colorful stems. And we'll talk about a couple of those pruning techniques on a couple of trees and shrubs that we have behind me in just a little bit. When we talk about pruning, we can't talk about when or how to do it without talking about our tools. So the number one tool that you'll be using when you're pruning is hand shears. These bypass hand shears. These are Felco, these are my favorite. This is your favorite tool as a gardener when it comes to pruning. These are for very small things, small twigs, small branches is the best thing to cut with your hand pruners. So as we move up into larger stems, you'll be looking at your loppers. So loppers are good for stems up to 1.5 inches. You get a lot more oomph with the loppers, so they're best for larger stems. And as we move into even larger branches or stems, that's when you'll want to use your hand saw. Anything you can access that's larger than 1.5 inches is when you'll want to bring out the hand saw. Then when you talk about really large branches and limbs, that's when you bring out the chainsaw, or maybe not you, an arborist brings out the chainsaw, but we won't be covering that today. One really important part of having tools is cleaning tools. So the winter is a great time to sharpen and clean all of your tools. And a very important part of tool care is not just cleaning and sharpening, but also wearing gloves, because as you clean and sharpen, they become sharper and sharper, obviously. So you want to make sure that you're wearing gloves to increase your safety as you prune. Pruning or cleaning doesn't necessarily have to stop in the winter. One really important reason to clean is when you're pruning diseased branches. So you can use a 10% alcohol solution or Lysol or some other sanitizing agent. You want to spray before you prune anything that's diseased and in between each cut. And this is going to prevent the disease from spreading throughout the shrub or the tree that you're pruning. So, moving on to timing. When do you prune? Obviously, it's winter right now. I'm standing on some snow here, and this is actually a wonderful time to prune lots and lots of different species of trees. This is dormant pruning, so all of our trees and shrubs are still in their dormant phase, but spring is approaching, so that open wound won't be open for long. It's not going to have too much time before it starts to heal once spring starts to come around. When you're talking about deadwood pruning, you can really do that throughout the year. Because that limb or that branch or that stem is dead, the chances of disease or damage occurring in the rest of the tree or shrub is very, very low. And one note is when we're talking about bleeding trees or trees that have a lot of sap, birches, maples, you really want to avoid pruning in the spring. Not necessarily for any health reasons, but certainly for aesthetic reasons. If you cut those branches in the spring, the sap will exude from that wound, and it's not a really great look. So that's how. Now we're going to talk about pruning techniques. So here behind me, I have a Sambucus canadensis cultivar aurea, and this is an elderberry that has really bright yellow emerging foliage. So here we are pruning not just for size, but we're also pruning for colorful foliage. That colorful foliage is most apparent on new branches. The technique that we're using today on this particular elderberry is called coppicing. So coppicing is when you repeatedly prune back to the ground something where you want to promote new shoots. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So when I look at these stems here, they're looking a little bit big for my hand pruners. So I'm going to start with the hand saw. You can see where last year we coppiced this to the ground. These are old but healed wounds. And so I'm going to come over here to this stem. And whenever you're pruning, you want to be sure to prune just above a node. So when we look at this stem here, nodes are usually these areas where buds are emerging. And sometimes in the winter you can see buds. So we have a little bud here, and this is the node. And we want to be sure to prune just above a node. We also have a node down here because we've got some growth on this other side. So I'm going to prune right above the node so that I don't have a stub, because stubs firstly don't look great, and also you want to prune just above the node so that we can limit how much of the plant needs to be healed. So I'm going to come through here and gently cut with my handsaw. So we've got this. I'm going to throw that away, and I'm going to keep going. So it looks like some of these I would be able to get with my hand pruners or even loppers. So I'm going to come in with my loppers here and get this small branch. So I'm going to cut this to the ground. I'm going to get this one and some of these smaller ones. All right, now I'm going to get this larger one with the handsaw. And sometimes when you're coppicing, it's difficult to get right to the bottom. So I'm going to make initial cuts, and then I'll come back and clean this up later. Now here's a big one. So I'm going to use my handsaw, get this small branch here, and then I'm going to come in with the handsaw. Sometimes, again, it's difficult to get to, so you might need to be a little bit flexible. And when you're pruning, it's important to get a clean cut. So that's why we want sharp tools. And if you have a not so clean cut, like I did here, come back and make sure that you get a clean cut. All right, one more stem. Okay, so we have finished coppicing this elderberry. Come springtime, this elderberry is going to send up brand new shoots, and we'll really be able to see that bright yellow foliage. Next, we're going to move on to a catalpa right around the corner here. All right, so here we have another pruning technique that we're using on this southern catalpa, Catalpa bignonioides aurea, and this is called pollarding. And pollarding is when you repeatedly cut back, but you're cutting back not to the ground, but to a stump or to the trunk. So I am going to use my loppers here. And again, you can see where we've cut back before. You can see these wounds have healed really nicely. So we're going to do the same thing here. And these loppers might be a little big for some of these stems, so I'll do some of the bigger stems here. But then I'm going to use my hand pruners. Favorite tool. We're going to come in here, gently cut back to the same place. And again, what we're doing here is promoting this growth, which is very, very colorful on new growth on this southern Catalpa aurea. Bright yellow, really, really fun. And I could go on and on. I'll do this until the whole tree is pollarded, and then again, come springtime, it'll shoot out new growth and we'll get a really nice form with these really large yellow leaves. So get out there, start pruning. Now's a great time to do it, and we hope to see you soon.